My name is Yvonne Baskin, and we are south of Keggy on Fieldview Circle, an area that Jerry Cashman says is not the best growing area in town, and we're in the valley of the Sourdough Creek here, so it's sort of a wind tunnel. But I found it a great place to garden, except for one thing that I'll show you. What we have here is my deer-proof garden, which just came about last summer. I tried all sorts of things to keep the deer out, like fencing each bed separately and things like that, but it was such a nuisance. So last year I put up this 7-foot fence, and now my problem is fighting this cottonwood tree. And when we first moved here 5 years ago, I thought this was the perfect location down here on the south side of the lot and in the sun, and it is great, except the cottonwood tree keeps sending invasive roots out. So, and little cottonwoods spring up all over, including in the raised beds. So in the past year, I've started going above ground and trying to protect whatever I'm growing from what's ever coming up from below. These are the first 3 beds that I built. These 3 boxes that are about a foot tall. And that was 5 years ago when we first moved in. But this is mostly the greens, the chard, the kale, the same beautiful lettuce that we have in the club garden called Red Express, and snow peas, which I move around so that we don't get pea weevils and things. And they're still coming on. This bed is in its second planting because this is what I harvested from it in July, these big bulbs of garlic. They're all dried and ready to use all winter. I always plant the garlic in late September, early October. Just pull the bulbs apart and plant the cloves, pointy end up, and they start coming up in the spring almost as soon as the ground thaws. And then as soon as the greens begin to die back, it's time to harvest them in late June, early July. So that's where these came from. And then I've planted cabbage and acorn squash, and it's a little late, and some peppers here. But depending on what the fall is like, maybe I'll get something. If not, I'll just replant the garlic. And then this is a bed of perennials, mostly asparagus and strawberries, quinault strawberries. Okay, this is a taller bed that I built just last summer for corn, and I always try to fit in as much stuff as I can. So this is zucchini draping off the sides here, and on the back side is cucumbers that are spilling over. The reason it's taller is that I also put a bottom on it of fiberglass screening and several layers of landscape cloth. And it's all because I've been lately having a problem from underground with the cottonwood, which towers above us here and has grown about twice its height in the 5 years we've been here, mainly because it's been sending roots out into everything I fertilize over here and water. And so this bed has a bottom on it, and you'll see in a minute I've gone to stock tanks to grow my tomatoes in instead of in the soil itself. And if I ever have the energy, I'm going to take the 3 original beds, take all the soil out, and put bottoms on them. But that may not happen for a while. I looked, and that's a lot of soil to dig out. We have 2 earth box type self-watering planters that I've filled with basil and put them on some rolling wheels so that I don't trust basil just growing out in the garden because the wind can whip it to death, and if we happen to have a summer frost. So anyway, these are movable, and actually it's just about ready to harvest. There's so much basil in here, it's time to make pesto. But these I can protect a little bit.
Here.
Okay, this greenhouse has, you can see some very big tomatillos at the back here. It's very crowded, but it seems to work. And then tomatoes, and we've got 4 kinds of peppers in here. Most of the tomatoes are still quite green, except for the sun golds. And I've got these 2 big stock tanks in here that I grow everything in. I started out when we moved here just growing them in the soil, but this is the bed that's closest to the cottonwood tree, and I found I just wasn't getting tomatoes more than a foot tall. They were just being crowded out by the roots of the cottonwood. So last year I went to stock tanks. At the same time I built the corn bed with a bottom on it, and hope to do that with all of my boxes at some point. But let me just show you this is one I dug out, a root from the cottonwood that just started putting up. It was right below the surface here in front of the greenhouse, trying to worm a way in, but the roots came all the way across from the cottonwood, some of them this big, putting up new little trees, and they come right below the surface, so I don't really see any solution except to put bottoms on the garden beds. Well, all these rocks came out of the construction of the house and the gardens. Everywhere I tried to dig, this is another reason I went above ground. Everywhere I tried to dig in the ground, I pulled out rocks like this. So I began stacking them back here, and then I decided to put some soil in here and make a berm, and people seem to like it from the trail system, which is right out there, and I like it, and we have plenty of bees and other things. So I've got the Russian sage and lots of lavender and bee balm, sunflowers, whatever I feel like any given year, but it's kind of a nice addition to the vegetable garden, I think. This is the newest addition to the garden. Just this spring I decided to put grapes. I wanted grapevines, but it was too windy out in the garden. So this is against the garage wall. I got some bare root. This is red Swenson, which I tasted some of Dick Lund's, and I saw his the footage on his garden and really loved the idea. And then this is Valiant, just because people say you should have a fail-safe grape, and apparently Valiant is quite a good one. And then I added Morning Glories because the grapes are going to take a while to get up and look like anything. So for now I have Morning Glories.